Peter Parker must pick up these shattered pieces of his life and move on. What'll happen next? Well, let's find out together, shall we, as we hop into the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 66. So then, this issue actually takes place after the events of the special King's Ransom giant-sized issue. You'll recall that that story had a ton of different plot lines come to a close, and guess what? We're not done yet here either. As we check back on in with Kindred in Ravencroft Asylum, he's still being tortured by Doctor Strange arch-nemesis Baron Mordo. Kingpin was really only keeping Kindred alive because of his connection to the Lifeline tablet, and now that Wilson Fisk has what he wants and was able to resurrect his son, the Rose, he doesn't need Kindred anymore. To everyone's shock and surprise, though, Norman Osborn, keeping with his recent good guy behavior, actually risks life and limb to save his son by rescuing the Spot of all people from the asylum. Man, you know, the Spot is so lame, and yet I absolutely love it every time a writer can organically work them in, like right now. Kindred is honestly as shocked as anyone else that his father would actively try and save him, and he starts giving a very heartfelt little speech about how this is exactly what he wanted to happen, to cleanse Norman of his sins, to tear down his walls and reveal the true man underneath all the evil and insanity. Oh, no, you thought he did that because it was a good thing? Quite the opposite. Kindred is still very evil, and he just wanted to cleanse Norman because, well, psychopaths are unfeeling and torturing them is absolutely no fun, and Kindred is just starting to torture his father. Now back over with Spider-Man, he's forced to come clean to the Avengers that he assembled about the loss of the Lifeline tablet and the resurrection of Wilson Fisk the Rose. They say that this is going to be a real problem, which is kind of funny because I don't think the Rose has ever really been a problem for anyone before, but hey, now he is. More than a broken heart, though, it's a bruised ego that Spider-Man is really reeling from right now. A D-list loser like Boomerang had managed to pull a fast one on him better than just about anyone else. In fact, hey, when we stop and think about it, Peter being so deeply hurt by a man that he thought was his friend actually resonates and reflects quite nicely in what Kindred was saying about him. This issue also takes the time to check in on several other smaller storylines that are still ongoing. Tombstone and Robbie decide to bury the hatchet with each other so long as their children are seeing each other, but that still doesn't mean they're not going to be at each other's throats or try and take each other down the second the opportunity should present itself to them. So yeah, there's a storyline that's very much still ongoing. Mary Jane actually gets a very interesting little aside this issue when she is seemingly kidnapped from one of her media junkets by Overdrive. He's not trying to hurt her though, quite the opposite. Overdrive wants MJ's help in tracking down their mutual friend Carly Cooper. Carly, who had seemed to uncover some very horrifying truth about Kindred and an extra body that shouldn't have been there at the end of the graveyard fight a couple arcs back before eventually getting disappeared herself. Then you got J. Jonah Jameson and Threats and Menaces, who are out of their golden goose ever since Spider-Man decided to ditch the deal that he signed with them. Jonah's not discouraged, though. If Spider-Man doesn't want to be his hero, Jonah will just have to simply find a hero who's willing to play ball. And I'm sure that won't come back and bite anyone in the ass, given Jameson's long and storied history of poor choices when it comes to picking personal heroes. While Peter's conscience may be clear after ditching Threats and Menaces, though, his bank account could certainly use a little extra help, especially as he took the actual pay that they gave him and decided to secretly give it to Aunt May to help her rebuild the Feast Shelter. Pete might be needing the Feast Shelter sooner rather than later when we consider that his apartment got destroyed, one of his roommates is dating a supervillain, and the other one is in the win after stabbing him in the back. But hey, you know what they say though, the one above all doesn't close a door without opening a window, and in this case, it's old friend Betty Brant who ends up waltzing back into Peter's life, and she's not alone because, well, she's pregnant. Ooh, that's going to be good not just for the Spider-Man book, but for the new Agent Venom stories now that Flash Thompson is back to life. Now, as the comic comes to a close, we see that Carly Cooper is actually being held in some mysterious, dark, dank cell somewhere, but wait, she's not alone. She has a cellmate in the form of Harry Osborn. But wait, I thought Kindred was Harry, unless there's two Harrys. Who's the real Harry? I don't know, as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 66, everybody, and much like King's Ransom that preceded it, this is a lot of housekeeping and wrapping up storylines before we can officially start new ones. I'll freely admit sometimes I take for granted and actually forget just how much has actually been going on in Nick Spencer's Spider-Man book. Tons of different storylines are all running concurrently with one another. And just when I start to forget stuff like Carly Cooper or the Feast Shelter or that weird future-telling device, they all end up coming back here in a big way. I start to think maybe it's not all busy work and maybe this is all actually going to lead somewhere satisfying satisfying when everything is said and done. I know some people had two Harry theories previous to this. Perhaps Kindred is actually the one from the pre-One More Day universe, and the Harry in the cell is the one we've actually been dealing with. Ever since then, I am also reminded that early on in this run, Spencer did tell a story where Spider-Man and Peter were actually split from one another, so maybe it's one of those situations too, who can say? Let us also not forget that Boomerang also technically died during the events of Secret Empire, a story written by Spencer only for him to be mysteriously resurrected here, and we've yet to be told why. There's also quite the theme beginning to form with fathers and their sons, be it Robbie and his kid, be it Norman and Harry. These are all interesting factors, but at the end of the day, I'd be lying if I said this issue wasn't really just more of the one that preceded it, and that is just trying desperately to wrap stuff up. Overall, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cave Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.